My name is Chip Weslow. I'm a wildlife biologist with the Canadian Wildlife Service, which is part of Environment Canada. The work I'm involved with is monitoring pollution levels of toxic chemicals in wildlife on the Great Lakes.
And while that sounds like a pretty big job, we do narrow it down a bit in that we select certain species of wildlife which will give us a good indication of what's happening in the environment. These are called indicator species.
So what we do is focus primarily on birds that eat fish. Usually those are herring gulls, double-crested cormorants, black-crowned night herons, and by focusing on those birds we get an impression of what's happening at the top of the food chain, what the contaminant levels would be, what effects they might be having. Our work is important because we have to know what's happening in the environment and what's happening to the wildlife that lives there. Pollution and disruption of wildlife and disruption of the environment is important to everybody.
And so every spring, wildlife biologists like myself go out into the field to count nests and collect herring gull eggs and sometimes eggs of cormorants and night herons, so we can monitor pollution levels in these species. By doing this year after year, we can tell if pollution levels are improving or not. And our studies show that they are. In the past 25 years, pollution levels have declined up to 90% in some species. That means that there's only 1/10 the amount of pollution now that there used to be, and that's quite an improvement. You see, 25 years ago, the lakes were very polluted, and the effects of this pollution were showing up in wildlife. There were fewer young birds being hatched, and we noticed that part of the reason for this was because birds' eggs had eggshells that were so thin they would break before the birds could hatch out. And the reason the eggshells were so thin was due to the effect that toxic chemicals in the lakes, such as DDT, were having on the mother birds. But since that time, governments have passed laws which have banned chemicals like DDT, and industries have reduced the amount of pollution they were dumping into the lakes. So today, the eggs no longer have thin eggshells, the birds are reproducing more young than they used to, and most bird populations are definitely increasing. So that is all very, very positive, and it means that pollution is decreasing and the lakes are getting cleaner. One very important part of monitoring birds is bird banding. In bird banding, we place a small metal band on a young bird's leg so we can track the bird's migration patterns. This small band doesn't harm the bird at all. The band has an identifying number which goes into our database, so we know where the bird was hatched and where it might end up someday. We also put little electronic transmitters in some birds so we can find out where they go when they migrate in the wintertime, how long they stay in their wintering grounds, and how long they stay in their breeding grounds. This gives us important information about the bird and lets us know if that particular species is having any problems which might be due to pollution in its habitat.
So yes, we track fish-eating birds. There are other people who track fish themselves. There are people looking at turtles, looking at virtually all aspects of the Great Lakes, and it all ties into the bigger picture of, what is the status of the lakes? Are they cleaning up? Are they getting worse? Are they staying the same?
Certainly, the overwhelming answer, compared to 25 years ago, is that the lakes are much, much better than they used to be, but there's still much work to be done. By maintaining our work and the work of others, we'll be able to track improvements again next year. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we'll be able to compare back to other points in time and see how the lakes compare.
As far as how I enjoy my work, I absolutely love it. I think I've got one of the best jobs I've ever heard of. Lots of people often tell me, boy, I wish I had your job. It sounds great. So I really, really enjoy it. I like being out on the lakes in May and June when the birds are doing their nesting, laying their eggs. Eggs are hatching. The young birds are being produced.
I've been doing this work since 1978 on the Great Lakes, and that's over 25 years. I enjoy it immensely. I'm looking forward to next year and beyond when we can go to the islands on the Great Lakes and count the birds and collect a few of their eggs and keep doing it year after year to make sure that things are improving and the bird populations are getting healthier And the lakes themselves are getting cleaner, so that 25 years from now, or 50 years from now, Canadians will still be able to enjoy the Great Lakes and the wildlife that lives there.